Welcome to the Dinnernet with Mark and Meg, the only podcast where Trinh is mean.
Finally. Our guest today is Trinh Nguyen, owner of Ramie and co-owner of Pho T&N, Pho T&N.
Yes.
Welcome, Trinh. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
Could you tell us about your reputation for being mean?
Yeah.
Being mean in the kitchen and being mean in my operations, I think probably my coming out party started at Bassa, where I had the reputations of standing up to customers as well as running a very, very tight kitchen. I think for the longest time, I think a lot of people didn't come and work for me at Bassa because they're just so scared of me.
Really?
You're not very scary, but I guess we're not working for you right now. Yeah.
No. And then it took us a while to actually attract the right talent. But then eventually we gained the reputations of having the restaurant that have everything together, that we run a really tight ship, that you know exactly what to expect as soon as you come in. We're very structured. It's all business. There's not a lot of drama. There's not a lot of like all the extra spicy things that happens along with the restaurant industry. And so people would just go in, go out, they leave, they get their paychecks and it's all good.
Yeah,
That's all thanks to your meanness, right? Your reputation.
Yeah.
It sounds like
exactly
it sounds like mean actually means exacting standards and will protect your employees from maybe demanding customers who are out of line.
Yeah, we definitely had that. We've had customer who came in and challenged us, and then I would walk out and be the bouncer and kick them out, or walk out and says, "I'm really sorry, we can't serve you today, so you need to go home and come back another day." But Boston can get very, very overwhelming really quick with the tourist season, and so it's really important that we stand our ground in terms of whether demanding customers or just customers that are hangry. Right?
Yeah,
Right. And so they don't necessarily mean to be mean, but they're just so tired and hangry, and they've been walking around, they've been waiting for their table, and they're just tired and they want food. And
they're excited to eat your food. Yeah.
Exactly. And so there's only so many restaurants on the island, and tourist season gets really overwhelming for a lot of us.
That's very generous of you. Mark, how was your week?
My week was, pretty busy, as it often is, although I did get a chance to see the Ocean Blue at the Crocodile, and that was
That's
fun.
a band and not like the actual ocean, right?
It is
That's
it is.
not how you refer to the ocean.
No, it is not. It's a band from the late 80s, early 90s. I used to work at Silver Platters, back in the day, literally 25 years ago, I realized.
The Northgate one?
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you just age yourself?
I just aged myself.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm way older than I look.
God, you're old.
25 years ago, that's so crazy. But that's a band that I had heard of. I remember getting their promo CD, whichever promo CD came out when I was working there. And I kind of listened to it and I thought, that's okay. It's not really hitting for me. But, years later, I heard about this concert. I thought, I remember the name of that band. Maybe it'd be fun to check them out.
Okay.
And they're really good. They're sort of like a proto-Future Islands sounding indie pop band.
Okay.
Like really jangly guitars, kind of like cool driving bass.
Yeah.
Really interesting little keyboard riffs going on. It's a cool show.
Yeah. And they're all old, like you, right?
They are
so they were
all
around 25
old
years
like
ago.
me. They're older than me. Yeah, they were.
Horrifyingly old.
It seems like that's the new trend nowadays, right? To go back to concerts and shows and stuff, and just being out and about with people.
Yeah, I really want that to increase. I think that's kind of my ulterior motive for always mentioning the concerts I went to, is because I want people to be like, "Oh yeah, concerts are fun."
Yeah.
And they are.
Trinh, how was your week?
It was very overwhelming.
Okay.
I've had so many things happen this week that I probably could have happened in like a whole month.
Really? You had a whole month packed into 1 week?
So I had an opportunity to host the Asian American Foundations on Monday.
Oh, wow.
They are expanding their footprint so that they can help promote and support the Asian community, where Chinatown as well as Little Saigon a little bit better. They're based out of New York, and they're expanding to Seattle to be able to help support what everyone's calling out for help for.
Cool.
And then on Thursday, I got invited to fly to New York to cook for the Prime Minister of Vietnam.
Oh, wow, that's huge. Amazing.
And then I flew back on Friday, and we celebrated the grand opening of our patio at Bassa.
Yeah.
And then the same Thursday where I was in New York was our articles for Seattle Times came out.
Great.
So
Big congratulations.
thank
Wow.
you. Yeah.
Glowing review by Tanvin, or it wasn't really a review per se, but a glowing article talking about how great Ramie is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Fantastic.
Very good.
Meg, what did you do this week?
I did a lot of gardening.
Yeah?
So I managed to kill my lawn intentionally by letting the leaves stay so that I could plant native flowers. So I did a lot of that. I'm doing like auntie stuff this week.
Auntie Meg.
Yeah,
At your service.
I've been an ant for life. I've been an ant since I was 11. So
So relatable.
yeah, like planted black-eyed Susans and California poppies and that kind of thing. And we worked on building the greenhouse. And then we were out in Enumclaw because Steven's mom had mice in her garage. So Steven and his sister and their partners went out and like cleaned his elderly mom's garage.
Boy,
we learned a lot about.
It's not a party.
No, it was not. But
Not
we
the
had
kind of party you want to have anyways.
Yeah.
we had a little road trip, and on the way back home, we got to stop at a little cidery in Puyallup that I will talk about later.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Would you say you're an old soul, Meg?
My mom used to say that to me all the time, but she also used to tell me that I should have been a lawyer, and I think that's just a way of calling a little girl a bitch, you know? That's just a way of being like, you're an old soul, like, stop talking.
It's almost like calling you mean, and it almost might be like there's a certain cultural double standard at play with that.
She's being very diplomatic. Yes, I've been called an old soul. You have to believe in certain things to co-sign that, though.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
You're like a combination soul. I think there's ways in which you're an old soul and ways in which you're a very youthful soul.
I'm all souls to all people.
And I think that's the same for me.
Yeah.
All souls to all people.
You have an old soul because you're old, aforementioned.
Well, yeah. It
We've
aged,
already learned that about you.
it aged along with me.
Your soul is brand new, yet old.
Yeah, and like a fine wine.
I like it.
Well, Trin, let's talk about your career in the restaurant industry. How did you get started?
So I don't think I ever imagined growing up and say I'm either a chef or a restaurateur by any means. I think I was probably when I was 5 or 6, I wanted to grow up and be the best singer
Oh, really?
there is. And I had a dream of a singing career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I grew to 16 and realized how lucrative that industry is and how lucrative that dream is. And I said, well, actually, I think I want to make some good money. So I wanted to go into business. So I signed up for hospitality and tourism management, which was a program that I was able to go to in school. So it's like a technical school that you can gain college credits for. So almost like Running Start, but more specific.
Is that here in Seattle?
It was actually in Kitsap, and I participated in their hospitality and tourism competitions for states, got second in states, got a bunch of scholarship, and thought I was going to be a hotelier,
Oh, really?
you know. And then I signed up for college 2 weeks before I got to go away to college. My mom said, put your dream on hold or put your college schooling on hold. We're opening a restaurant.
Oh, wow.
And I go, okay, what is that? Well, what is that supposed to mean? And she goes, just put school on hold for a year. I just need your help for a year. Your brother is in the military. Once he comes back from the military, he can take over and then you can go to college.
Okay.
So I said, are you sure? Like just 1 year? And she said, yes, just 1 year. So 2 weeks away from college, I called and canceled everything.
Wow.
Wow.
And she gave me 2 weeks to take over our first restaurant, which is the Pho restaurant in Post Bowl.
Yeah, Pho T&N.
Pho T&N. My mom had gotten a home equity loan of $70,000. The restaurant cost $75,000. I don't know how she made it, but she made it happen. And she said, you have 2 weeks to take over the contract, the lease, a new sign, a new menu, and then you're going to be in front of the house. I'll be in the back.
Wow. Just you two.
Myself, my mom, and my dad.
Okay.
And I was 19.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
you must have been really young.
Yeah. And so I went to meet with the property manager. We went through everything, and I negotiated my first lease for the restaurant at 19.
Wow.
I called the sign company and said, hey, we're taking over this restaurant. It was called Pho XA, SA. And then, we changed, and then we wanted to have a different name, of course, for a restaurant. And they're like, you're crazy. There's no way we can get you a sign in 2 weeks. I said, okay, well, don't call me crazy, but tell me what do I need to do to make that happen?
Yeah.
And he said, well, if you keep it 2 to 3 letters short, we can make it happen. So that's where T&N became a thing. And then we said, well, T stand for my mom last name, N stand for my dad last name. And then we made it happen on the day that we took over. So we took over, open at 10 o'clock. The sign finished installing at 11:30.
Oh my God.
Wow. Was there another name you guys had planned before that sign?
I wondered that too.
I don't think we were very creative or intentional at the time. You know,
Sure.
my mom wanted to do it. It wasn't something we wanted to do. And so we kind of just took on the job to help them.
Sure. Like these are tasks to be completed, not.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't our dream by any means. And then we had a paper menu, you know, that we took over that was done on Word doc. And then I remember our first week of business, because this restaurant has been open for about 2.5 years. So they built like their clientele and their like regulars. So then people were like, why would we spend the same amount of money and pay for something that you're going to make where we don't know you? And how do we know the food is good? And I said, you're right. You shouldn't. You don't have to. But I can tell you that the food is really good. And if you try it and if you don't like it, the food's on me. And they really liked my confidence at 19, because even then at 19, I looked like I was like 12. And so they think I was completely underage and I was just trying to help out my immigrant's parent. And then, you know, they ate the food. They really liked it. And so I said, okay, great. Instead of tipping me, hold on to that tip. Don't tip me this time. Just go tell your neighbors and friends and family. And I would have appreciated that more than you tipping me. And that was basically how we started that business. My parents are amazing cook. My parents or my grandparents had multiple restaurants before the fall of Saigon. And then my mom, after being with my dad or married to my dad, she wasn't a cook, but she has an impeccable palate. Okay. And so as she learned how to cook, she was able to really season very well. And then she started putting systems into my dad's recipe. Where my dad was one of those old school cook that never measure. He just
he eyeballs it. Yeah.
And so it becomes a little bit more inconsistent as he gets busier and older.
Sure. It's a pain to get recipes from those folks. Like I was trying to do that with my relatives, getting like the old school Italian American recipes that I had. And my aunts, my great aunts, they're just like, I don't know, you get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and taste it, and you know,
you have to video them doing it, and then zoom in on their hand when they're just like,
and then gauge how much they put in. Part of my cooking journey was, you know, started with my dad when I was 13. My dad had a lot of recipe, knew a lot of recipe. And I was 13 and I was like into Chinese drama at the time, right? Okay. Like I would like go to Filipino down in South Seattle and like rent like stacks and stacks of them and just like binge, right? Okay. And my dad would be like, stop watching the show, come over here, I'm making this dish and you have to watch me. And I go, why do I have to watch you cook?
Sounds like a bad show, right?
Yeah. And he goes, because you're a woman. You need to learn how to cook so that you can cook for your kids and cook for your husband. And I was like, okay, and why do I still have to learn how to cook? I don't plan on getting married. I don't plan on having kids, you know. I don't really want to cook for anyone, you know. And he was like, it doesn't matter. You're going to stand here and learn. And so he didn't really give me a choice. And that was how I really learned as many recipes as I had to, because I didn't have a choice.
Yeah. Right. Was there a moment that you can remember where it finally clicked into being something that felt fun and good rather than something that someone was kind of forcing you to do, essentially? Yeah.
You know, I've always enjoyed eating.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy cooking. I always enjoyed eating, and I always enjoy the process of cooking. So like as a kid, I remember when I was in the refugee camp, I would just sit and watch people cook, you know, or like put things together. I was always drawn into the dessert side of things, you know, from when I was really, really little. And I would just sit there and watch them. Before I left the refugee camp, I was like 9 years old at the time. And I told my mom later on, I confessed to her that I had owed this lady like, I think like 20 baht, which equates to like maybe $5 in US of like snacks and dessert that I eat that I didn't pay her.
You're like, I'll pay you later. And
Yeah,
you're like,
and
no.
then I just left the refugee camp and I never paid her. And she's like, okay, we'll just put that money in the basket at church, you know, and that's a way to like repay her. I'm like, okay.
She's going to show up at one of your restaurants someday.
Yeah, especially after this podcast.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, she's that
She's
girl.
like, I know exactly who that is.
So she admits it.
She remembers too.
Yeah.
So how did you get from this being sort of a thing that your parents tasked you with to being a thing you decided to do on your own with your brother and opening up Basa?
So I've always, I don't know, I've said this to the wrong people and they hear it very wrong, but I remember serving at Pho and working as a server in a pho restaurant after I've gone to school and was going to go off to college. And then one day I was just like, I told my mom, I was like, Mom, if all I'm doing is just to be a server, isn't that a waste of what you have sacrificed for us to come here? And then my mom said, be humble, you know, be grateful that we have this restaurant and that you have a job, because we opened in 2005 and in 2007, the market crashed.
Yeah.
And so she was like, just be grateful. And I said, no, I am. I just felt like there's more for me out there.
Well, you had a whole training that you were planning to do. So that's kind of where that came from, right? And
Yeah. So it wasn't like I wasn't being grateful. I was like, I think I can do more, you know, like I think I can like explore more or grow more.
Yeah.
And then I continued to help her. I got married really young, have 2 kids by the time I was 22.
Oh, wow.
So I'm almost 39 now, but I have an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, 2 boys. So everyone's like, did you have kid when you were 12? And I'm like,
how dare you?
It felt that way. I was barely an adult and I have kids and I have to, you know, stop and really being an adult rather than being a young adult and trying to figure things out.
Right.
In 2014, my mom's health started to decline and she asked me to come back and help my brother run the business, because she knew that, you know, after she left, it's going to be really hard for my brother, because my older brother doesn't cook. At the time, he didn't know how to cook. He just helped run the business side of things. And then, so I came back in August of 2014. I was in banking then, and then I came back to help her. And I thought she was going to retire. And then I came back. She took over the next door space and said, "You're expanding that."
Oh, wow.
Bait and switch.
Yeah. Their parents are so good.
Yeah.
But now I'm learning. I'm like, I'm a parent too. So
You just tell them what's happening. Yeah.
And so by 2015, we expanded the space and we went from 9 employees to 30 employees in 2 months.
Oh, my God.
And so I went from a role of just helping my parents to becoming more like a GM, you know, running everything, putting everything into system, you know, opening checklists, closing checklists, having everything in place so that employees have a way of reference rather than just coming back to us. And so that was a very, very quick growth in a very short amount of time. We double in volumes in less than a year with that space.
Wow.
And I remember, I think about a year later, I was like, Mom, I think I can still do more. And again, she says to me, she says, be grateful. Think about what we've had. Think about what we went through and think about the blessings that we have with expanding this restaurant and being able to grow in the way that we did. And so I said, yeah, I know. I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there, right? And then in 2016, my mom's health really declined. And then we completely took over. When we took over, we tried to do what Mom did while trying to take care of Mom when her health declined. And
so difficult.
people were so upset because they used to go in and see my mom cook and my dad cook. And now, you know, my mom and dad are gone and then work on taking them to the doctor's appointment. And so they thought we sold the restaurant.
Oh, sure.
And I eventually had to come out and go, no, we didn't sell. This is what happened. We just needed time to process everything. And then even then, you know, we weren't good enough for our parents' menu. Everything we did wasn't good enough because we weren't our parents.
Sure.
And so we started trying to change our menu to reflect what we were going to do. And people weren't happy with that either.
Really?
And so again, I wrote another email and I said, you know what? Based on what you were saying, you wanted us to continue our parent legacy. Here we are doing it. We're going to keep the menu exactly the same. However, we're not our parents. We can only do the best that we can, you know, in continuing their legacy. And so please respect that and please support us in our journey. Yeah. We're doing the best that we can, but we are not our parents. And I literally had to go out and spell that out.
Yeah.
And that people responded really well. They finally click and they get it that we weren't our parents and that our parents had to retire and things are going to change. If you've ever traveled to Postville, you know that it's the town that don't like change very much.
Yeah.
You know,
Small
I mean,
town.
they appreciate the way things are, and it's a really cute Viking town.
Mm-hmm.
But I take it as a compliment that people appreciated our parents cooking so much that they just don't want us to do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then in 2019, we said, okay, fine. You know, they don't want us to change, but we still have so much in us, and we want to continue to see how far we can go. We wanted to open a restaurant that speaks our language, that serves our food without being judged that either we're the kids that can never do it right or we're the kid that are so rebellious. You know, it's a restaurant that we're going to open just for us. And so I started looking into restaurant that we can do pop-up with. And then I met Chef Brendan and, you know, the rest is history. In 2019, we opened Basa.
Is there a reason why you chose Bainbridge?
It kind of just happened. I didn't chose Bainbridge. I felt like it chose us in some way because we started getting really bored with our parents' menu.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with their menu. We were just bored. And so we started doing these tasting dinners where we would do like street food of Vietnam or whatever the theme would be. We would shut down the restaurant, sold 40 tickets and just do tasting dinner that represents, you know, our creativity and flavors. And then someone mentioned, this would be so great to have on Bainbridge. And then I happened to go to a affordable housing gala. And I went there just to support the community. And then I met Chef Brendan. And then I started talking to him. And he's like, oh, come do, you know, the tasting dinner or pop up at my restaurant.
Great.
Yeah.
And then, you know, from that, we were really successful with the pop-up. And then he kind of nudged me and was like, hey, the restaurant next door closed. So do you want to come and be my neighbor? And then I said, why don't you take the space? It makes more sense. And he was like, I don't think Bainbridge want me to have any more restaurants.
Was that the old Cafe Nola?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that place.
And so I was like, Chef, can you introduce me then? You know, and then he's like, yeah. But just so you know, the landlord is very particular. You have to be really careful, you know. And I said, yeah, but if it's easy, everyone would be doing it. It wouldn't be us.
Good
so
point.
I took it as a challenge rather than, you know, like a stopping point.
Yeah.
Words to live by. If it was easy, if it were easy, everyone would be doing it. Yeah.
And
think about it.
I know. Anyone who knows me knows I strive for a challenge. Like anything that anyone says I can't do, I'm like, I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
How did you get from Basa to Ramie?
So Basa was definitely, so the original concept of Basa was small plate, medium plates, large plates. We had no idea what we were walking into when we opened Basa. We had no idea that it was a tourist destination.
Oh.
So it was a lot of learning. We start out with a summer menu and then by November, like everything was dead.
Okay.
Yeah,
It was very common in Bainbridge where a lot of people would bank on May to November and then basically take a 4-month hiatus or even like a month or two, you know, just to relax and then come back.
Sure, because the tourist season is over. Yeah.
Right. And so we had no idea. So then I said, again, going back to if it's easy, everyone would do it. Or like if other people can't do it, I'll do it, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to change Bainbridge. I'm going to make this like an all year type of business. Easier said than done, you know. We sat, you know, empty on a lot of days in November and December and January of that year. And then February came and things started to pick up a little bit. And then March happened and the pandemic shut down.
Yep.
And so what our concept was for Basa was one thing and then we had to pivot. So if you remember, a lot of people kind of pivot to like different style and different concept and completely change their branding.
Yeah.
We just kind of kept it the same and said, hey, you know, this was our offering, but here's what we're thinking we're going to do instead. And so Ty and I started brainstorming in terms of, okay, this was what we would eat during good times. Now it's the pandemic. Like if you are cooking every day, if you don't want to cook anymore, what would you like to eat? So we started thinking comfort. We started thinking about dishes that your loved one would cook for you, but you can't go see them.
Right.
And so we kind of just drive that menu around that. And so if you go to Basa now, you would see that there's a lot of comforting dishes in our food and like a lot of comfort component rather than it being fancy or one way or another, which in the beginning it was a Vietnamese restaurant with French-inspired technique or ingredients, and then Pacific Northwest ingredient inspired as well. So
is it Viet comfort food with Pacific Northwestern ingredients? No.
Right now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I've never been. I confess.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, I got to get that done.
Yeah, it is one of my favorite restaurants in
Yeah.
the area. Is there a dish there that you think that people should be sure to try?
At Basa?
Yeah.
Oh, the customer had made a dish for us. Like it wasn't, there's so many dishes that we come up with that we're like, oh my God, we're so proud. Like this dish is so cool.
Yeah.
Like we did a rabbit 3 ways, curry.
Really?
And it was like the coolest thing that we did. And it was like, we're so proud of it. And it didn't sell.
It didn't.
But then like the dish that Ty literally put together, like very short minute, we were like, oh, we're going to launch a happy hour menu. So we're going to do a spicy truffle wonton. That dish blew up.
Really?
Right? And then our chili prawn noodles, it's not even Vietnamese. It was literally, we did a ramen pop-up and then we had extra shrimp, we had extra ramen noodles. And then Ty was like, oh, remember that like salt and pepper shrimp that auntie made for us when she was here visiting from Australia? I was like, yeah. And he was like, I'm going to make some with that noodles that we had. And literally, he put that dish together. We were eating it. Somebody walked in, they saw it, and they're like, are you going to put that dish on the menu? Then we did, and it became like this crazy dish that everybody have to get at Basa.
Awesome.
And so I would say the taro egg rolls, the spicy truffle wonton, and the chili prawn noodles are like probably our top 3 sellers.
Okay.
21 days dry aged beef pho is also something that we're known for.
Yeah.
So, for the most part, like we've been really, really blessed that a lot of the dishes that we would put on the menu, people would love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
So it's been almost 1 year of Ramie being open.
Yes.
What has the first year been like?
While.
Yeah.
I think I thought it was going to be hard. I don't think I can imagine it being this difficult.
Really?
I think we have a few challenging, aspect to our space. One, we're on 14, we're not on 12, so we don't get a lot of walk-in. Our space is beautiful.
Yes.
But it's huge.
And you have the upstairs too. Yeah.
Yes, and we have the upstairs, and it's massive. So if we're busy, it's lively, it's great. Everybody wants to come in.
Yeah.
But if you're the only guest in the restaurant and it's a slow night, it's so intimidating. And I think like some of the feedback that we've been getting from people, they're like, oh my God, the food at Ramie is so incredibly delicious, but they're always empty. How do they keep up with the quality of the food? And a lot of work, a lot of attention to details and, anything that doesn't cut, it ended up being waste. But we knew that we have to work at it and we have to keep up with our quality in order for us to finally, like for it to make sense for people to come in and then the waste won't be a problem anymore. But I mean, we end up eating a lot of the waste too, so that we don't,
Have you noticed an influx, even though it's brand new, with Tom's story about Ramie in the Seattle Times? Have you noticed more people since then?
Yeah.
I know it's only been a few days, but
Definitely. I've been walking around and be like, are you here because of the article? Or are you like here because you love us, you know?
Yeah.
Or like, how did you hear from us? And I think like 50% of our customers in the last week is from the article.
From Seattle Times. Wow. Have you had a lot of press in general?
I think we've been very grateful. Like, I think we've gotten quite a bit, you know? Okay. And so I don't know if press is the reason. I think we were pretty busy all the way up until November when we noticed people coming in and they didn't want to eat or they were just so depressed because of the election.
Yeah.
And then December seems to spike up a little bit with the holidays. Yeah. And then January is always a dead month for the whole industry. So like, you didn't think it's that bad or that uncommon, right?
Sure.
And then January 21st when the new president took place.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then from there, it just tanked for us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I hate to put politics into business, but it seems like
it's real.
It's-
That's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are depressed,
Nothing-
especially in the city.
Well, they're confused.
Yeah.
They're
And-
depressed.
And they're broke.
fearful. Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing impacts business quite like policy.
Yeah.
You know,
And
so
tariffs.
so it is absolutely intertwined with politics.
Well, it's about to be best restaurant list season for all the local publications. So I'm very confident that you guys will end up on a few of those. So
We're
Absolutely.
hopeful.
It can be funny how long it takes people to discover a place too.
yeah,
You know,
it's not the hip part of Capitol Hill. Like Capitol Hill is big and has several
Huge,
micro neighborhoods within it. So if you're out walking and you don't live in that neighborhood, you're not necessarily going to go to 14th and Pine.
We also made a silly mistake. So my sister and I hire a person for our website for Pho T&N and for Basa, but we kind of ran tight on budget. And then Wix became super user friendly. So then my sister and I looked at each other. We're like, oh, we can build our own website. It's fine. We never set up SEO.
Oh, no.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
I was like, why are we so reservation based?
Yeah.
And then I finally figured out after attending Holly's marketing meeting that she had for all the restaurants. I walked up to her and I said, Holly, everything that you've mentioned, I've done. So why am I not getting walk-in? Some days I'm looking at like a few single digit, reservation for
That's
covers.
wild.
And she says, I would love to look at your back end of your website to see. And so she said that. And then I went home, I think 2 days later, because I wasn't feeling well. And instead of resting, I went to my back end and I started looking. And then I was like, oh my God, no way, we didn't do this. And then, so then Holly met up with me a few days later and I said, I think I figured out the answer to my question already, but I would love for you to take a look at it and see what else I didn't do,
Yeah.
But she was really sweet. And she kind of pointed out a lot of things that we still need to work on. And it's amazing what technologies can do to a business now. And
Yeah.
Sure.
and she said, you know what, Trinh, you're not the only one that's
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure lots and lots of people aren't internet literate and don't know how to set that up.
well, I thought I was.
Yeah,
right.
no.
Well, that's one of those like you
And I
don't
was
know
like,
what you don't know
You're
situations.
leaps and bounds ahead of many, many restaurant owners.
Yeah.
Lots of people don't even have a website.
Yeah.
So
But it's silly. It's like what you think you know, and then there's so many things that happens on the back end where before you're like, oh, you have to hire a graphic designer or website designer to do this, and now
Right.
like everything is so easy that it almost became a clutch for you if you don't pay attention because you
Sure.
think you can do it all.
yeah.
Yeah. And you're talking about Holly Robinson, right?
Yeah, I was going to
Yes.
say.
Yeah, yeah. She's a treasure. She knows so much
Yep.
and is such a great resource for people in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Holly. If you're listening to this, I hope you don't get bombarded with all the help.
We'll tag her with our SEO.
Yeah. Well, I was actually just going to make a joke like, I wonder what we haven't done on our end for this podcast.
Lots and lots. We work full
A
time.
whole lot. Sometimes I forget that we've only been doing this for 4 months. It feels like we've been doing it forever.
Our
but
entire lives,
It's like
yeah.
literally been 4 months.
Yeah.
So,
It's a
we're-
passion project, folks. We're trying.
We're learning.
You guys are doing great.
Thanks.
Well, should we get to the news, Meg?
We should get to the news, but first I went to La Huerta Numero 2 in Tacoma, which is a Mexican supermarket. There's one in Kent also, and I bought all the snacks, and I couldn't decide which one we should try, so I just grabbed a handful of them.
Let's do it. Snack
I'm going to make you
cornucopia.
eat all this.
Okay.
All right, number 1, chorizo and chipotle flavored Fritos.
Okay.
These seem mild. Like, are
Yeah, I
they
was gonna
really
say-
going to have chorizo flavor? I don't know. Are they going to taste like meat or just like the flavoring of chorizo?
Yeah.
Don't know.
I'm always skeptical of chipotle as a flavor now, just because it's kind of like so been co-opted
They
by
smell
every.
kind of good though.
I kind of
yeah, okay.
imagine it would be good.
Yeah. Fritos.
Like,
I mean,
they smell like food.
yeah, not to like give too many props to like a corporation, but
Yeah.
as far as snacks go, Fritos are pretty natural in terms of their ingredient list. It's just like corn and salt, and
I see a billion ingredients on there, but
Oh,
half of
yeah.
them are going to be in Spanish and
That's-
half in
well-
English. So,
that's going to be from the flavoring.
oh, I like it. There's like a citrus in there. It does taste like chorizo. It really does. Wow.
Wow.
I like it.
I don't know if I
Almost
like
tastes
it.
like there's lime in there, right?
Yeah, there's like a citrus flavor. Yeah, it's probably the like desiccated citrus, like in tahine.
Yeah. Some lime zest powder or something. I really love the flavor combination of chili and lime. That's sort of my junk food Achilles heel, or my junk food kryptonite, is that if it has chili and lime, I want it. This is actually maybe like a little too accurate in its chorizo flavor for me. I'm feeling a little freaked out by that.
I love it. I want to like make something out of it, like use it as a crust for a savory pie or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe some Frito chilaquiles.
Or mash them up and put them on chili.
Chickens.
Yeah, no, I dig it.
Letter grade?
A.
A. Our first A so far. Trin?
No, I think we got an A- before. I don't know.
I think it's a B for me. I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
Yeah.
And I think it could be very versatile.
Sure. I'm wavering. I'm gonna say B-. I think it accomplishes what it sets out to accomplish, but it's not in my wheelhouse.
What a fine dining approach to Fritos you have, Mark. Fine dining Fritos with Trinh Nguyen.
That might be the episode.
You might see this on our menu, and it will be the dinner podcast Inspire.
Oh my God, I love
The
it.
dinner podcast appetizer, Dinnernet. I don't even know what our name is. The Dinnernet is our name.
That's why we can't SEO things.
I know. These are Tortrix. Which makes you think of the word torture, but it's not. Tortrix limon flavor.
Okay.
On the English label, it says lemon flavor, but of course, this is a picture of a lime, so I believe they are lime flavor.
Yeah, like
they're
this
all
weird-
crunched. Look at them.
Yeah, it's kind of like
They're like smithereens. Not like the picture on the front.
No. All right, let's try.
Not much to them. They just taste like plain.
Yeah, not much lime to them even.
I'm disappointed. There's more lime in the chorizo one,
Yeah, I would agree.
frankly. Yeah, those are nothing. D, like 0, like lack of a grade. It's just plain Fritos, right?
Incomplete.
Incomplete assignment.
It's a little stale too.
It does seem a
Yeah.
little stale.
Yeah,
There's
actually it does.
a lack of crispness to
Those
them.
suck. That's pigeon food.
Yeah, it's sort of a dull, kind of grainy flavor.
And these are Diana, probably Diana in Spanish. Corn Brights. Mark commented on the fact that it sounds like a band name.
Yes.
Corn Brights, and they are sweet. They're sugar-coated, vanilla-flavored corn snack,
Yeah.
and they're rainbow-colored. I got these because they were ridiculous and probably disgusting. But
The Corn Brights are the kind of indie band that opens and they're kind of like not really good. So they start out and they're like, hey, thanks for coming out early. We're the Corn Brights, and we're gonna play some music for you. So yeah.
tell you what you already know.
And then the guitar player tunes at that point, and you're like, oh my God.
There's like feedback from the mic.
Yeah.
These smell good. They smell like marshmallows.
Oh.
They smell like Lucky Charms.
Oh, they do, and that's weird.
Yeah. They smell like a corn-based cereal with marshmallows.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
They look like-
artificial sugar and flavors. In
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
They look like Fruit Loops.
Since 1951, families have preferred Diana's quality to our unique portfolio of due to our unique portfolio of salty and sweet snacks.
Okay.
Corn Brights is a medley of texture, flavors, and colors. They have all those things.
It is
Crunchy and colorful sugar-coated vanilla flavored corn puffs that will satisfy any sweet tooth. That's a bold statement, all of that.
satisfy any sweet tooth.
Any sweet tooth in the world.
That sounds like the kind of thing 19-year-old Trin would say about a product.
This actually tastes like Fruit Loops.
It tastes a lot like Fruit Loops, Captain Crunch, like
Yeah. Corn.
Frankenberry. Yeah.
It tastes to me like Lucky Charms and Lucky Charms' marshmallow combined.
These are kind of good.
Like the cereal and the
I
marshmallow.
kind of like
part.
them. I want to make Rice Krispie treats out of them.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's actually probably the best use. This is something that Little
I'm
J
so
South.
surprised. Yeah, Little J South. You need to go to the Mexican supermarket and get Corn Brights. We'll tag them.
This
Although,
is actually the best one.
Yeah.
Out of the
yeah, I don't know how much extra sugar this could bear, though, is the thing.
That's true.
They're pretty sweet.
It is pretty.
They're like confetti.
That was pretty smart that you had that last. Because I think if you started
Yeah,
that
that's
first,
exactly
I
what
don't
I was
think I wanted
thinking.
to eat
I
the
almost
other
put it
two.
in the middle. I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good,
we're going out
good
with a bang
call.
here with Corn
Yeah.
Brights. I recommend Corn Brights.
Corn Brights.
Yeah, 3 out of 3 podcasters recommend Corn Brights.
I have to say it's an A- for me. The minus is just a little too sweet, but other than that,
I spilled them all over the table and then I picked them up and ate them. So,
And we're still eating them. So
We are.
and to this day, they were still eating them.
We all went back for more. That's very telling.
Corn brights, ladies and gentlemen. Reach for the corn brights. All right, news. Did things happen?
Reuben's in Fremont is closing its location, which was in the former Viet wine spot.
Oh yeah, that little.
Yeah, it's that cool
standalone
little
building.
googie looking low rise with the windows and kind of diner look to it. I think it was always sort of slated for development and at a future date. I just hope that the developer actually builds what they're going to build in Fremont, because there is such a trend in this city of evicting a business or evicting tenants and then knocking on the building and then it's just sitting on it for years and years.
Right.
And
Just chilling.
it's just an empty lot. And
Because they're getting equity for it.
exactly.
So even if they don't spend a dime, they could sell it later. Yeah.
Yeah. I got some political thoughts about that.
Do you?
But let's move on to the next item.
We've got Ilmu open in Bothell per Naomi Tomke at Seattle Met. You should have taken the Bothell news, I suppose.
I know, right? Well,
I don't know where this is in Bothell, and I bet you do. Ilmu means knowledge in Malay, and it is inside of T55 Patisserie. It's Chef Mohammed Feroz Rashid, who went to culinary school in France and worked in Singapore doing fine dining. And this is weekends only for now.
nice.
Do you happen to know where it is in Bothell?
I don't. Do you know, Trinh?
No, but Yenvi sent their Instagram page to me, and then I started looking at it. I'm like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Ilmu, some example dishes. It's a 5-course tasting menu, so you can make reservations to try it weekends only, such as an otak rosette. I don't know what otak is.
I'm curious.
OTAK. I don't know what that is. And a yuzu kosho halibut dish. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, totally.
I would eat it.
La Loba is opening on May 6th. So by the time this podcast is out, it will be open. So La Loba is a Spanish restaurant from chef Oscar Amador, and it's inside the One Hotel at South Lake Union.
Cool.
I actually went to the preview dinner for this with Harry Cheadle from Eater this past Friday, and so he is doing... Oscar, that is, not Harry, is doing some really incredible composed plates there. There's a tasting menu you can do. You can order a la carte. One of the items that we ordered was eggplant parmesan because they had this sort of reduction sauce and tomato powder, and the eggplant itself was cooked to this incredible texture, and the flavors were really, really bold. The parmesan, I think, showed up in like a sous vide form. I wish I would have I tried to take a photo of the menu, but I was trying to be quick and I moved it and the menu just blurred illegibly on my phone. So
Harry probably has one.
he forgot to take a photo too.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You guys.
That's
Yeah.
always a good sign, though. Like if you're so into the food and you don't have any other details about the menu or the photo, like, you know, the restaurant, like that's always a good sign.
Yeah, their website will come up with the menu pretty soon, but I checked it just before this episode. They still didn't have it. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about a little bit, but that was a really great dish, and a lot of the other things they had there were great too. So
He's a Vegas guy, yeah?
he is, yeah. And he was talking about how excited he is to be in Seattle, where there's more abundant produce, you know, as opposed to Vegas.
Yeah.
Now, there's going to have to be some compromises being in a hotel restaurant, right? Because like that scale is, you know, you're not going to be able to be like, what's the new thing at the market with that level of scale. But he's really trying to bring in the most local ingredients that he can in that format. And I think it's kind of cool to have something like this. I mean, obviously like a hotel restaurant isn't our bread and butter, Meg, but this is something different and new. It's not a new American surf and turf kind of paint by numbers hotel restaurant concept. It's something new for the city.
Yeah,
So
he's from Barcelona, yeah?
Did
you say that already?
I think I did, but maybe I didn't.
Okay.
It's good.
I'm trying to remember. I wrote a thing about him for openings last month for Seattle Mag, and I'm like, what did I write?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a high roller restaurant and a little bit more traditional fine dining than we do here normally. Yeah, like they had a tableside beef tartare they were doing, and that I was just kind of thinking about that afterwards. Like it was such a austere thing, you know. He's just sort of like horseradish, Worcestershire, anchovy. You know, and doing it and kind of with this real exacting focus. And I thought, wow, we don't normally see this kind of thing in this town. Is this town into that? We'll find out.
I do think that the town, the city, is interested in fine dining. So I think.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
I've since we opened Ramie, I feel like people have come to me and tell me that I'm crazy, that the whole town isn't into fine dining more often than I hear that they're into fine dining.
They want a shtick. They don't want classic new American. I have noticed that. They want a new concept, which you are doing at Ramie. So I feel like people are into it. I think it's your location, not that it's a bad location. I just think people need to go and find out, and then they'll go. So we got to get them up there in the first place, right?
Yeah. And I think that Seattle just really needs pedigree. Like they really want to hear that someone is from a Michelin star place or someone got James Beard nominations. And I'm not saying that's not valuable or it's not right, but I just kind of, I wish people would be a little bit more adventurous.
They do tend to take those lists and make checklists out of them.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I feel like in the first quarter of the year, I keep hearing there's so many restaurants closing and people are giving up on Seattle. And then I talk to my diners or my guests, and they're all like, "No, we can't let that happen to Seattle." Yeah. Right? I just feel like we all have to do our part in saying that and manifesting that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That no, don't give up on Seattle, and that there are good chefs and good restaurants and, restaurant or chefs who take what we're doing so seriously and trying to put whether Seattle dining or Seattle fine dining on the map again. Because one of the things that I went to in January, I had the opportunity to go to Bocuse d'Or in Lyon, France.
Okay.
And it was the Chef Olympics that happens every 2 years in Lyon. And every single time when I said, "Hi, my name's Trinh. I one of the chef and owner at restaurants in Seattle." And they're like, "Where are you from again?" "Seattle." And then the next time they introduced me, they're like, "Oh, it's Trinh. She's from Philadelphia."
What?
No.
And they said that to me a few times, and I was so appalled by it. And I said, "Why?" And then my friends are like, "Well, probably because every Asian female chefs that you know now are James Beard Award nominees, or they've won awards recently, and they're from Philadelphia."
Wow.
And so I'm like, "But what about Seattle? We have great restaurants.
Yeah, we do.
We have great talents.
Yes.
So why not? And I started talking and talking and talking. They said 20 years ago, Seattle restaurant scene and food scene was really, really big nationally and to the world.
Yeah.
But recently it just kind of fell off the map.
Yeah.
So what do we need to do to get back on the map?
No, we keep getting snubbed at the James Beards.
Yeah.
Frustratingly.
Well, that doesn't help.
No,
but
it doesn't.
Yeah, that's super
I don't think that's the
frustrating.
only reason. But.
yeah.
Yeah. We ask ourselves that quite often, like what happened 20 years ago, or not 20 years, but like what happened in the interim between when things were really popping in Seattle to now. And I think some of it is economic factors, people not being as flush. Some of the people who are flush aren't interested in interesting things. They kind of...
It's young money and new money. And I think a lot of this is a stereotype, but as we often say, tech workers and gamers often are too young to have cultivated palates, and they want to eat at Taco Bell,
Yeah.
And they don't want to leave their house either. I found that a lot.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of an engineer, not all engineers, of course, but an engineer, food is fuel kind of mindset.
Yeah.
And so they're just looking for the easiest, quickest form to fuel up and, kind of be done with it.
That or pop-ups, right?
Yeah.
They're so into the new trend.
Yeah.
I had a really funny experience. I remember I said I have two boys at 18 and 16. They both decided they wanted to get their permits and their license at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And at the same time that the new IDs are in full effect.
Yeah, the real ID.
Right? And so I went to the DOL 3 times. At the third time, I said, I don't care what happened. We're going to get the permits today. And I arrived at the 3rd Avenue DOL license location. I arrived at 8:30. There was 72 people in front of me. What was really funny about it is when I was standing in line waiting to get inside to get a ticketed number, we had a car that drove by and asked if we were in line for a pop-up.
Oh my God. So exciting. Is there
What are you
food
guys
in there?
Yeah, what are you guys in line for?
Why else would you
for
wait?
The DOL? What does that mean?
Yeah.
The Department of Licensing?
Oh my God.
For your license? Oh, so this is not a lined up for a food place.
There's no food in there for me. Wow.
No.
I'm trying to think of what DOL could mean as a restaurant.
Delicious old lunch.
No, but I mean, long story short, to a very, to what I'm trying to point out is people are so into pop-up. They're so into the next trend. They're so into what's next, popular on TikTok. But are people really interested in quality food, in food that is made with intention, care, and with, like cultivating ingredients and quality ingredients?
I guess it depends on what it is. If it's something they eat all the time, maybe, maybe not. If it's like a new concept that you have invented and no one else is serving it, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. People are weird.
Yeah. I think one thing that is very hopeful to me about pop-ups being popular is that is oftentimes a very experimental format for restaurants to operate in. And so it shows me that people are willing to try things. I think that sometimes people might just be a little bit unwilling to jump in and commit as much as we might like them to. I was thinking about the idea of a tasting menu and how some of the larger scale tasting menus in town, like the 125, 150 and up tasting menus, sometimes people shy away from doing those. And, sometimes I do when I'm not feeling flush, but Meg, you and I oftentimes will go to a restaurant and we will spend that much just bit by bit. And it's more of a comfort thing. It's more like, well, that was really good. I'm comfortable with adding more. And now I want to add another thing. And you sort of end up getting there, but not with the initial throwdown of the tasting menu price. I think that might be a factor right now. I don't know for sure.
Do we have time for more news?
I think we do.
We had a whole round table in there.
I know we did.
Ep18 is a Thai fusion charcoal grill concept that soft opened in the former Ula space. We're a little late on the uptick here because it was on Friday, April 18th. I just found out about it thanks to Everout. They are serving dishes like Dungeness crab cakes, coconut clam chowder, lobster khao soi, and green curry pasta. Green curry pasta is interesting to me, and it's charcoal grilled, so I'm excited about that. Yeah,
I think that's exciting too. I almost went there this weekend. But I ended up going a different direction. Yeah, I went to the U District Farmers Market instead.
Oh, okay.
Good
call.
No, thank you, Meg, for saying that. Because I drove by and I was really sad when Ula closed because I never got to try Ula before they closed. And then I saw activities at Ula over the weekend when I was driving by, and I was like, oh, I wonder who's coming in. So it's
now we know.
Restaurant.
I remember Secret Kanji was doing a Thai grill concept a little bit last summer, and they didn't keep it going for very long.
Over on CV Boulevard on Shilshol,
and I was super curious about it, and I super wanted it, and I couldn't get over there before they stopped it.
Yeah, I remember that.
And this, to me, sounds similar to that concept, that Thai grill that we don't really have here.
Maybe it's the same folks.
I wonder.
I don't think it's the same folks, but... But it is sounding like a similar concept. I think it'll be really interesting.
We'll have to research as journalists.
Yes. Next news item is kind of a bummer to me because I've been talking a lot about Spice Walla's fried chicken concept at their Columbia City location, and they've pulled the plug on that. They're shifting back to their classic menu of kati rolls and chaat, which we were talking to Marcus Lalario when he was on the show, and he was kind of talking about how when that place opened up, he was expecting it to be kati rolls, and he wondered why they didn't shift the brand to reflect fried chicken. And I think they did originally open over there with kati rolls and then shifted, but that fried chicken was so good, and the sides they had there were so good as well. I wish that we were further along in the development of this podcast so that us mentioning it would give it a bump that it needed. But we can mention it again. In any event, we'll have Uttam on the show next week, so we can maybe talk about this more with him. I'm bummed. It was great. I guess wasn't penciling out. And so all right, well, that'll do it for news for now. Do you want to do a round table since we talked so much earlier? I wanted to talk a little bit about local seafood as well, because we were going to have the topic just be what is Ramie, what you're trying to do with it, but we covered that a little bit earlier. But we were chatting before the show about how people don't utilize all of the beautiful seafood in the ocean that we have, in the blue ocean, in the ocean blue, and that there's local crawfish that nobody uses and things like that. So you're out on Bainbridge and you connect with local fishermen.
We try to be. I think, so for example, sea urchins, something that you have access to. We have access to, and there's two types of sea urchins here, the red one and the green one. But even then, there's only one guy that would go and dive for them, and then only a few selected restaurant that gets them. And then outside of that, I think every once in a while we get a big batch from a bigger purveyors, but that's it. There's probably maybe 2 or 3 weeks out of the 365 days a year that we get them. And then that's it. Washington State razor clam was something that we tap into, or we got access into a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered, I'm like, why don't anybody put razor clam on the menu?
It's so weird. You'll see them in chowder or you'll see them breaded and fried, but that's about it.
That's about it.
Local folks who grew up here remember going out to the peninsula and going clam digging for razor clams because they're so specific.
Yes. There's only like, I think 2.5 weeks in the year that you get them. And so I remember when Key City Fish emailed us through their fresh sheets. And then they're like, oh, we got razor clam, Washington State razor clam.
Yeah.
And I was like, I told Ty, I said, we're putting it on the menu. And he was like, do you know how hard it is to clean razor clam? I said, I don't care. We're putting it on the menu because we're doing it, you know, and it's going to be a lot, but we can train our staff. We can get used to it. But I think it's really important that we have to offer what's available in season.
Right. It doesn't travel across the country or the ocean.
No.
It's right here.
It's right
You
here.
can just go get them.
And it's so good. And our recipe for it is so simple. And we only have it, you know, for a short time in the year. And people would take the ferry over to Basa and order 2 to 3 orders.
Wow.
You know, that's just how much people are craving for local seafood.
Yeah.
I've asked about fish because growing up, I know of at least like 20 to 30 different types of fish that you can cook with in Vietnam, where we are not known for our seafood. And here, every time I talk to any of my purveyors or my rep, they don't have it, or they have the typical stuff that everybody has, like the tuna, the yellowtail, you know, they have the salmon, they have the halibut. They just have the basic fish or trout. And then at one point, I have catfish on the menu because Basa is a type of catfish.
Yeah.
And people got, well, one, they've never had catfish, and 2, they're like, oh, so it's not local. So people do want the local stuff. I just don't think that we have enough accessible for us to put them on the menu at the restaurant.
Is that because they're not selling them at the purveyors, at the fishmongers? Like people don't have them for you to order?
I honestly think that we're in a place where what we know is what we know. And until someone says, hey, there's more seafood or fish out there that you can access to, and there are people that wants it. And this conversation, I think, is part of the awareness to get the conversation going. But I just think every time when I asked, they said, well, no one asked for it and no one knows about it. And so if no one asks, even if they fish for it, they don't think they can sell. And therefore,
right. So they're not going to, it's capitalism based. They can't make a profit if they
and no one
fish
wants
for
it. Basically, where Vietnam is a culture where we grew up with. It's like what you can cultivate, forage, fish, you can eat.
Right.
And so if you can eat, you can sell. If you can sell, you know, there's a market for it.
Sure. Is there a certain fish that you really wish would be cultivated here?
I don't know all the name in English, but there's so many fishes in Vietnam. There's like freshwater fish, there's like river fish, there's ocean fish, right? Or saltwater fish. It's there's so many of them, and they all came with different flavors and different like profiles and textures and like different, and it's best for like different application.
Yeah.
And I seriously wish we get more local fresh fish that's in season.
Yeah.
Sure.
Other than what we have.
Yeah. And shellfish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And crawfish.
And crawfish. I'll go on a tear about the local crawfish. I have a story in me about that. I actually got Chef Alex to contact the folks who sell the signal crawfish, the Pacific crawfish. And I think he was going to do something this summer when they're really in season. But there is a kind of crawfish. I almost said a genus. But I think it's species of crawfish that grows in every lake and river in the Pacific Northwest. It's in Lake Sammamish. It's in Pine Lake. It's in all the rivers. And they look like little miniature lobsters. They have huge, meaty claws. And nobody serves them except Crawfish House in White Center. It's just Viet Cajun. You can order them. They have the option to do it. There's one company that sells it in bulk. It's a little bit expensive, but I don't think it's too expensive. People just don't want it. They want either the southern red crawfish or nothing. That's just what they picture.
Yeah.
But those guys are hard to crack, and they have little tiny pointy, narrow claws. These guys have huge claws. So it just makes sense to get the local stuff. So I don't know. I would love to see it on more menus.
Yeah. An interesting fact for the Pacific crawfish is they're very invasive.
Yeah.
So they grow faster than we can actually eat them.
Really?
But I wonder if the reason why they grow faster than we can eat them is no one's consuming them.
Eating them. Yeah.
Right. There's just one guy who's eating.
Yeah. I I'm surprised. Like there used to be a fishmonger in the U District. They never carried them. Like you can't go to a store and buy them. You got to call this one guy who sells them in bulk, but I would love to see them on menus. It's right in our backyard.
Sounds super sustainable too.
Yeah, for sure.
I think this might be a transition point, if that's okay. But my opinion of what food is in the U.S. or in certain part of the U.S. is pretty stagnant.
Yeah.
You know, and part of the reason why we open Ramie and doing the concept that we're doing at Ramie is because for the longest time, I think when we set out to do the pho restaurant for our parents, we wrote a menu that my parents said it's safe. You know, it's a menu that people can recognize and they're going to order off of.
Right.
And, you know, and there's obviously risk in opening a restaurant and expenses and things that would stop you from doing what you think you want to do. And I get that. But for the longest time, if you see a Vietnamese restaurant, what do you see? Pho. You see banh mi. You see vermicelli noodle. You see rices. You know, you see things that are very recognizable by people, like from people. And then restaurateurs, the restaurant owner would do it because they know that they know that it's safe, right?
Yeah.
When we go to Vietnam in the last few years to visit, to do R&D, one of the things that we realize is food in Vietnam has grown so much. Even for Vietnamese food, not fusion food, has grown so much. They've learned to reinvent what a dish is based on the availability of ingredients or based off of like how things are changing agriculturally, right? And how people are eating differently because the weather is different, you know, et cetera. And they're constantly reinventing themselves, whether it be through the fusion of other cuisine or just within their own food.
Yeah.
But why aren't we doing that in the U.S. with Vietnamese food? And the biggest thing for me was fear. Yeah, that they're scared. Every parents that I talk to, every older generation that I talk to, they're like, well, I mean, if we put mắm, which is fermented fish or fermented shrimp, are they going to eat it? It's too funky for them. I said, well, I don't know. Chef Eric Johnson at Stateside did mắm nem, which is fermented fish, straight up. And people love it.
And it sold.
And it's sold. And he's not even Vietnamese, you know? Or maybe because he doesn't have the same fear factor of worrying that people won't appreciate our food, and he's just doing it because he's doing it. You know, he wants to do it. And so I said, if Chef Eric is doing it, why can't we do it? Why can't we do it and do it, you know, in the way that we would enjoy it? We know about it a little bit more. So why can't we do it? You know?
Absolutely.
You know, or I've seen so many chefs that are doing, you know, different interpretations of Vietnamese food, and I'm just like, why do they have the ability? Like how did they come up with this courage to do it? But we as Vietnamese won't do it because we have so many limitations, or so many barriers that, you know, or so many people telling us that we can't. So then shut out all the noises and say, hey, if I'm gonna do Vietnamese food, how do I do it in ways that I'm not afraid to put any dishes, any ingredient on the menu?
Right.
So when we came up with Ramie's menu, it was challenging for us in a sense. People who supported Basa knows we're very rebellious. We do things just because we want to do things. As long as it's good, we do it, you know? And we don't like to follow a lot of rules. But then we also have a really big Vietnamese population in Seattle that we know they're going to come in and they're going to be like, oh, this is not Vietnamese food, or this is not how it was made. My mom didn't make it this way. My grandma didn't make it this way. So then how do we have a menu, open a restaurant where people come in and they can't expect, you know, write a menu to where they're like, oh, well, you know, I'm going to do mắm kho quay, right? Yeah. And they're like, oh, I already know what that is. I don't have to order it. Well, why would they order it at Ramie? Yeah. So we have to give them a why factor, and then we have to give them a surprise factor. Yeah. And so that was how we wrote the whole menu. And instead of being afraid and hiding behind the fact that, oh, our Vietnamese food, our food is going to be very different. One, our food isn't going to look Vietnamese. Two, our food is going to be really, really funky. And three, we don't fit into any category. Right. Yeah. Like and instead of hiding behind all of that, we're coming out and we're saying, you know what? Our food isn't going to be what you expect. And if you expect it, we won't do it. Yeah. And so we had so many Vietnamese clients that comes in and they look at the menu. Obviously, it's Vietnamese, so they know what it is. And they're like, you know, and our server would come up and say, can I tell you about our concept? Can I tell you about our menu? Can I walk you through it? They're like, no, thank you. We're Vietnamese. We know.
But you don't.
But
necessarily.
You don't. You know, and then we have clients who are not Vietnamese, and they're like, how are we supposed to read this menu? And I said, well, there's English translation underneath, and then there's description. But it maybe the beauty in all of this is the unknown, so that you can come in, you let us, take care of you, give you the experience. If you like it, you come back. But it's not so much of what you're expected to know, but maybe kind of just coming in and be open-minded and let us show you what Vietnamese food can be rather than what Vietnamese food should be.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
I don't think outside of banh mi and pho and rice and noodle, do people really understand Vietnamese food? Do they understand why we use fish sauce? Do they understand why it's so balanced and so complex?
No, I would say no. I would say, as you point out, Americans, specifically white Americans, think of banh mi and pho and the vermicelli dishes, I think, pretty much as standardized Vietnamese food, and they don't know much beyond that.
Yeah.
So that's a very good reason for people to go into Ramie and Basa.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because for folks who think that way, there was a point in time where they had never had pho, they'd never had banh mi, and they tried them and loved them.
Yeah.
So just
why
keep
would
it
you
going.
not like more of the same?
Yeah.
That's what I like about what Lisa B is doing at Banh Mi. She's doing home food, is what she calls it, like Vietnamese home food.
Yeah.
So the stuff that she ate at home, she's doing it as a pop-up, but she's working toward a brick and mortar, and everything has been so delicious.
Yeah.
So.
And I love that concept too. That was one of the concept that I've considered doing. And I think Anchovy and Salt does it really, really well, where they do a lot of Vietnamese like comforting dishes, but with better ingredients. And I think there's a beauty in how big our community, our Vietnamese community is in Seattle. And I don't believe in competing against one another.
No.
And I've had so many people, they're like, Chef, you can do pho so beautifully at Pho T&N and at Basa. Like, why won't you bring that to Ramie? And I said, well, there's so many pho and banh mi restaurants. There's no need for me to do pho.
You're not a pho restaurant. That's a different kind of restaurant. Yeah.
And I said, maybe we'll do it, but we'll do a fun play. But we'll do it in ways that you don't expect. But then again, like, I think you should go and support my neighborhood, my pho restaurant down the street. Yeah. But then you come to us for something completely different. And not that we don't like it or that we don't appreciate it. And I just told you I ate banh mi for breakfast today, And so I just don't believe in doing things that it's not needed, I guess.
Right.
For sure. So you have a little bit of a tasting menu set up at Ramie that's like designed to introduce all the food.
Yeah.
And could you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah. So we started out with, I always think that I'm very thorough in the way that I plan the menu. And then, you throw a menu out and then you're like, oh, wait, that didn't work, We opened with a menu where there's a lot of tasting items, which we were so proud of.
Yeah.
There are smaller portions. And then when we plan a main menu, we went really big because one of the things that when I go to tasting menu, I realized that you don't leave full.
Yeah.
And so we thought we were being very clever by making it really, really big.
Yeah.
Except a lot of people don't get to mains and then they still leave hungry.
Yeah.
So we learned through different like parts of our menu and then learning how to do it. And then once we figure it out, and then we realized that even then our menu was very different and very new. It's not something that people know how to order, and it can be intimidating. So then we said, okay, well, why don't we do it was the same time as Seattle Restaurant Week, where they were doing like $45, $35, $65 menu with the same idea that you can go to restaurants and you can try it out. And so I said, okay, well, why don't we do that? But with dishes that we know for sure customer loved. And then for people who've never been into a restaurant, it's a great way to introduce the restaurant. Or let's say, Mark, you've been here before, but you're bringing, two new friends that either you do or you know them or you don't know them, but you don't know how they eat. And this is a great way to introduce it with fan-proven favorites item rather than just, randomly picked. And because what if you like it and what if they don't like it, right?
Sure.
And so it's a little safer. $65, you get 3 courses and a dessert. You have the option to add on for a la carte. You can do cocktail pairings. You can do wine pairings. So it's all at your level of comfort and how much you want to spend. I've had people come in, they started with that because it's safe. And then they order the bread, they order the custard, and then they order like 5 other items from the a la carte menu, and then they do wine pairings on top of that. So it was just an option so that people feel like it's a safe option so that they know like they're going to get the items that's really, really good, that's known to us. At the same time, they can still be adventurous or not, or, just that.
at $65 is a super economical entry point for a tasting menu. I mean,
Absolutely.
generally when you hear tasting menus, you're thinking like 100 at least, you know? And so really great entry point.
Can we also call out the fact that Ramie has a very beautiful wine and cocktail program?
We absolutely
I wrote a
should.
story about one of Jen Ray's. Jen Ray isn't there anymore, yeah?
She's still on more on a contractual consulting part of it. So she and I just talked this morning. She's still designing the cocktail menu. She's just not there on a regular basis.
Yeah. So I read a story in The Stranger in my cocktail column about one of her drinks.
Yeah.
And there's all kind, and they're changing all the time. She makes new ones all the time. Beautiful stuff with Vietnamese Numero and rice paddy herb and all kinds of things that you don't normally see.
Yeah.
Yes.
So other cocktail bars, very unique, very thoughtful. And Jen has a wine background as well. So
she does. She's an impeccable wine list as well. And so we actually just worked on a jasmine tea cocktail recently.
That sounds great.
And it's a vodka base. So jasmine tea infused vodka with a Visé Sakura vermouth. And then it's served in a teacup.
Oh, nice.
But it's a tea column. So it's like, when we present it, there's a lid on it. So everyone's assumed that it's a hot cocktail. But it comes with a big ice cube and then jasmine flower on top. And then they open it. And they're like, oh, wait, this is like a play in their head. And in terms of like whether it's hot, it's cold. And
brilliant.
But it has the tannin of jasmine tea. It's very fragrant. It's beautiful. It's a boozy vodka cocktail that you can drink as an adult.
I love it. What a smart idea.
Yeah.
I think Jen Ray has a genius palate too. That all of the cocktails that at Ramie I've tried have just been fantastic.
Yeah. Her specialties is in savory cocktails. Yeah. So it's been really fun where she came together and she's like, Trinh, I don't really know much about Asian flavors. I was like, don't worry, I got you. And so I'm like, what do you want to do? And, do you want to play with herbs? Do you want to play with herbaceous, fragrance? What is it? And she's like, I want to see this. And I went to the store and just dump it all on her. And then she'll sit there and play with, eat different, component and then just envision a cocktail out of that.
Smart.
Yeah. I saw something on Instagram where you have a new pastry concept.
Pastry page.
Yeah. And I'm curious, what is that? Is that something that's going to exist inside Ramie? Is it something you're thinking about bringing externally?
Yeah, I figure I saw you follow my page. I figured this was going to come up. So when I did my finals for my pastry program, I did a dessert called sweet corn, which is a dessert that I grew up loving. It's a chè bắp. It's like a sweet corn with sticky rice and then coconut cream.
Oh, nice.
And then I reimagined that as a pastry with coconut mousse, corn pastry cream, corn glaze, and then black sesame sablé. And then I used the corn silk. I dehydrated that into a nest, and then I decorated that with for the dessert. And then I named it maize sucres, which is sweet corn. Okay. So then I said, okay, if I ever wanted to open a pastry dessert concept, what would I ever name it? Yeah. So that's where Sucres came from. Okay. I have been doing a lot of pastry at Ramie. Yeah. A lot of it being inspired from chè, which is a Vietnamese dessert, because I would love to introduce all these flavors in different forms so that people would learn to appreciate chè or Vietnamese dessert a little bit more, but also be introduced to a lot of different ingredients, Vietnamese ingredient or Asian inspired ingredients. So my friend had just opened up Taz Matcha, which is on 7th and Stewart. It's a matcha cafe.
Yes.
And he had some of my cannelé at the restaurant. And he said, well, how do you feel about baking for my new cafe concept?
Oh, nice.
And so I said, sure, why not? Because I have a lot of time in the world. And I can't say no to dessert and, being able to expand my dessert exposure. And so I'm baking vanilla and matcha cannelé for him at his shop. And so his concept is blowing up right now. And so I was like, oh, well, it's kind of confusing for them to tag Ramie because we're a restaurant. And then, some people don't even order dessert.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so I created Sucres page just so that people can tag it.
Nice.
Appropriately. And then I think that page is going to be a lot more dessert based versus Ramie is going to be more about the restaurant.
Sure.
I'm doing a video for Pastry Art magazine for the summit, so then we'll be posting that on there, or anything that I'm working on, or anything that I will be featuring from multiple locations. I will be posting, just very dessert focused.
Cool.
Yeah, everyone's like, "You're crazy. You're doing another concept." I'm like, "No, I'm just creating a page for it.
It just created itself. Yeah, it was organic, right?
It does.
Just occurred. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does fit right in seemingly with what you're doing at Ramie with desserts. It seemed very familiar to me in that sense. Is there anything else you'd like to say about Ramie before we get into the next section?
I think the only thing that I really want to make sure that people understand is for us, doing Ramie is something that is not, we didn't open Ramie as a business. We opened it as a passion project.
Okay.
We kind of like what you guys are doing here. Ty and I really, really want to push the boundary of Vietnamese food. I feel like it's time. I feel like everyone's doing it. Like every ethnic cuisine has gone through it, from pizza to pasta to sushi to hand rolls to ramen to, real rustic Vietnamese dishes, whether it be eaten at home or dishes that are more than what Americans know to that cuisine. And I really hope that people come and check us out and try it, and hopefully that they get to see our love, for the cuisine, as well as they can imagine like what it can be and be open-minded to that, rather than what it should be, because I don't think anything should ever be what it is.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. I think I used that very line in the opening article I wrote about you guys for Eater.
Yeah.
Is that you express what can be, not what should be.
Yeah.
So
Everybody read Mark's story from last year on Ramie, by the way.
I feel like I really got it.
More.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a year ago, so you probably evolved and changed. You had just opened back then, but yeah.
Well, it feels like, I can't believe it's already been a year. And as the customers are coming in from checking out the article, they're like, "How long have you guys been open?" I was like, "A year ago." And they're like, "Really?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, we've been here waiting for you to come in."
Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about. Like it takes a surprising amount of time for people to discover you sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm sure Ton's article will help.
Yeah, for sure. That's the one.
Really sweet.
Yeah.
Well, all right, Meg.
Shall we talk about what we ate this week?
Let's do it. Thanks, I ate it.
Thanks. I ate a lot of things. Do you want to go first?
Well, I was going to let Trinh go first, and then you, then me.
Trinh, what'd you eat this week or recently?
Yeah. Okay. So I had to really brainstorm. But as I mentioned right before this podcast, just to make sure that it was appropriate to say, I, again, have two boys and they love meats. One of the fun discovery that we found after we moved to the side of the water is Woodshop Barbecue.
A wood shop in the Central District. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Their pork belly. No, wait, what is it called?
Burnt ends?
Burnt end pork belly
Oh, man.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Their chicken wings. They have fried mac and cheese,
Fried mac and cheese.
brisket chili.
Is it like chunks of mac and cheese that are...
They're rolled and then panko and then fried.
Oh, wow. I want that. Oh, man. I would destroy that.
And then what else? Their barbecue sausage is amazing. I love spicy, and then my kids love the regular. But we just go to town. We always order way too much, but we can't decide on what not to order.
Yeah.
So we order everything.
Good call.
And then right across the street, and I have to do this. I mean, I honestly didn't think I have a sweet tooth. And then now I'm like admitting that I have a sweet tooth. But one of the best pastry that I eat recently was the guava cream cheese bicolor croissant at Temple Pastry.
At Temple, yeah.
Which is literally right across the street.
Yeah.
Right.
It was so beautiful, first of all, and the layers and the crunch. But it was so good. I only ordered one, and I had to share that with my kids and my husband, and I was really bummed about that. I could have finished two on my own.
That's a Costa Rican pastry, right? Because when I was at Giddy Sloth last week, they had guava cream cheese pastries that they said were a traditional pastelito from Costa Rica. I guess that's just that concept. It may have been a totally different pastry to the one that you ate.
I've always wondered Chef Christina's background before I met her. So I recently cooked with her at Savor Gala for the Food Lifeline. And she's not Asian, which I thought she was, because she has had so many Asian-inspired ingredients in her pastry. But so it's like all these time as I'm eating it, I'm like, oh, this person probably is Asian, or like background or whatever. But no, she just understands it really, really well, and she uses it very well. And she has another guava inspired dessert. It's like, I think one of her tropical cake. Don't quote me on the name, but
Sure.
it's also really, really good. Her carrot cakes are good too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raisins in the carrot cake or no?
No.
I love it.
Yeah. Do you like raisin or no? Not.
I would prefer not raisins. I can tolerate it. And it's like, I'm not going to be like, no, I can't eat this. But
I like them both, but there are different schools of thought, definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, hell no, no raisins.
I think just for me, it interrupts the texture in a way I would prefer it not be interrupted. But
That's fair.
that's about it.
I put banana in a carrot cake.
Ooh.
myself.
That sounds good.
I don't know if I love it.
Banana can take over sometimes.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was the problem.
Uh-huh.
And then, because I got in, when I made the cream cheese frosting, I used a banana liqueur in it, and I really liked it and how subtle it was. And so I was like, oh, the banana would make the carrot cake even extra moist.
Yeah.
And then it took over the
Extra
carrot cake.
banana-y.
Yeah, it was too much, and then I couldn't taste
And
the
it's
carrot.
banana
and then,
bread.
Yeah, exactly. And so, what did you eat, Meg?
I ate all kinds of things. Last week I went to Menu Musashi and I forgot to talk about it, but Menu Musashi is my favorite ramen. A lot of people say Oink is their favorite or Danbo. Both very, very good. But I love Menu so much.
Where's that at?
It's on Capitol Hill. We were on our way to the Broadway Performance Center, and it's about a block. It's a block like down the hill and then toward First Hill, whatever direction that is. But it's in the bottom of a condo building. You enter sort of like not on the alley, but like it faces the alley, and then the garage door comes up, and it just feels sort of secret in there. I think it was $17 for a lot of food, and we got sake, and it was just fun to be in a little ramen hidey hole. And there's
Speakeasy.
I mean, it's not secret because there's a giant sign outside, so it's not really a speakeasy, but it just seems like you're kind of around the corner in the alley. And there's a condo across the street that has a sign in the window that says like, want to see the cat, text 51574 or something. And if you look, there's a cat in the window. And I'm like, we already saw the cat. What happens if you text?
Yeah.
That was my favorite part, aside from the food.
Did you text?
We didn't, because the cat was already there. But like, do they pick it up and hold it? I don't know.
It's a phishing scam. Don't do it.
It was charming. I know. That's how they get your data.
Of course, they use a cute cat for it.
I went to Misan Pastry in the market and got a char siu barbecue pork stick, which I love. That's
Gotta
my
do it.
Yeah.
favorite walking around snack.
Yeah.
It was delicious as ever.
Nice. I actually had it last week with my son.
Oh, did you?
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I went to Karoo Cafe, which is the South African cafe in the Kells building, but on First Avenue instead of down in Pike Place. And I had a boba tea pie. Well, 3 little ones. They're kind of like toaster strudels, like flaky, buttery crust filled with this beef curry with carrots and potatoes in it.
I wonder if anyone's hearing boba tea pie.
No, bobo, B-O-B-O-T-I-E. Yeah, no, good point. Strong point.
No, I
That's
heard
not
boba,
a
so I was
boba.
like thinking tapioca is like one
that's
of
your
the
next pastry, a bobo tea pie. That sounds good, actually. No, it was South African. It was beef curry with veggies. And on a different day, I kept going to the market because I kept trying to catch the guy at Virginia Inn, but I never did catch him. I was trying to write a follow-up story, and I never got a hold of him. On the another day, I went to Copa Cafe, which is not the Copacabana because that building is closed for construction, I think.
Yeah.
So they moved into the market in the old Uli's sausage spot, and it's just a little cafe, and they have a bar, and they have cocktails, and I had a salteña, which is like a baked empanada. It was not that different from the bobo tea.
Oh, sure.
It was like beef, and it had olives and raisins and egg in addition to the beef and
Interesting.
potato
Sort
and
of like a picadillo
carrots.
kind of situation.
Kind of. It reminded me of one that I had in Costa Rica, but it had like more stuff in it.
Yeah.
I think about this empanada I had all the time in Costa Rica that had half a boiled egg inside of it and olives, green olives, and beef. And it was so good.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect. But yeah,
How did this stack up to that one?
That one was better, but it was actually in Costa Rica. So
Sure, of course.
No competition.
Did it sort of scratch the itch though, or?
Yeah. It was similar. It was kind of stewy, which was not what I was expecting. I went to Hellenica and had frozen yogurt. I had that Seattle Fog. That's Earl Grey, orange, and vanilla. Blew my mind.
Hellenica is so good.
So good. And Steven likes to make yogurt. He buys cultures online. He has like a Bulgarian yogurt culture and a French yogurt culture or whatever, or Finnish. And he's like, let's make it. I'm like, we could try, but I don't know. It seems aggressive to try to challenge Hellenica. They're so good.
I know. Yeah.
Is that it? I went to Cockerel Cider in Puyallup, which I mentioned earlier on the way back from his mom's house. I'm writing a cidery road trip story for Eater. And it was on a little plot of land overlooking the Puyallup River. And it had apple orchards, and they were sort of young apple orchards that, you want young, delicious apples. They'd been trained into these long rows like fences. There were chickens running around. There was a black lab who was not chasing the chickens. He was just kind of laying on the ground. It was very, very beautiful. We really enjoyed Cockerel. They're definitely going in my roundup. The cider was delicious. I got a bourbon barrel cider, and Steven got the bone dry cider.
Oh, both of those are really great names.
Beautiful, dream sequence of an afternoon sitting in an orchard next to the river.
Was this before or after the mouse
It was
situation?
after cleaning up mouse shit all afternoon.
Perfect self.
I was like, can we get out of here and have a nice, good smelling place to hang out in? And but Cockerel Cider delivered. And that's it. And Mark and I are about to get a conversation tonight. So we'll check it out. I have not been. I hear it's been open for 8 or 10 years, but they have a new staff and a new concept and a new chef at Conversations.
I will admit to very much sleeping on it because it just seemed like a hotel bar to me or a hotel restaurant. And I oftentimes just it just doesn't trip my radar. But when we were talking to Johnny Reyes and about how he used to work there with this crazy staff of stars, I was like, wait.
Yeah.
Is that how this place rolls? Do they bring in really great people? And
I'm really curious.
we're about to find out.
Yeah. What'd you eat this week, Mark? Yeah, tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, exciting.
Well, I ate at a place that you also did because I invited you to the Mezzanotte Bittersweet Alchemy event.
That too.
So this is a thing that Mezzanotte is doing every month. They're bringing in an Amaro producer, and they're doing Savannah Denny, the bar manager there, is creating a cocktail pairing menu along with a multi-course dinner that Johnny Sullivan is doing. So this time they brought in Letterpress Distilling. So it was Skip.
Skip Tognetti.
Who we had on the podcast earlier. And oh my God, that menu was so great.
Really good.
I think the sort of unanimous star was the cauliflower panna cotta.
Yeah, that was great.
Panna cotta, if we're pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that savory panna cotta was a thing.
Never would have occurred to me.
Yeah. And once we tried it, it just felt like, oh my God, of course it's a thing. It should definitely be a thing.
Add that it's a roasted panna cotta, cauliflower panna cotta.
Yes.
And my Italian hand just came out when I said,
I'm
hanging out with you too much.
Exactly.
So the cauliflower panna cotta was actually not a dessert.
Not a dessert. It was an appetizer.
Yeah.
Small plate. And it was plated very beautifully, just lovely sort of pool of panna cotta with the roasted cauliflower on top. There was fried prosciutto on top. So it was crisp and kind of expressed its baconness in a way that you don't actually normally get. Normally prosciutto reads more as a ham kind of thing. But in this way, it kind of straddled the line between...
And blood orange.
Blood orange. I think
so
it's
good.
syrup. Yeah, there's a blood orange
there were
syrup.
blood oranges on there, weren't there?
And
little tiny segments,
Pickled blossoms.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the red bud blossoms were pickled. Yeah.
Okay, I'm hanging out with you guys next time. Can you invite me to dinner?
We will.
Because I'm hungry now.
Yeah, we should.
We should.
I actually meant to ask you if you still sing because you were talking about
we were all going to go to karaoke per the last show.
I can only sing in Vietnamese.
That's fine.
My
sing
Asian
better.
accent really comes out when I sing. Not that it doesn't come out when I talk, but it comes out even worse when I sing.
That's fine.
So, I'm going to stick to just Vietnamese. But even then, I haven't sing, so I can't pull anything off anymore.
Yeah. All right. Well, I also wanted to shout out the Fontina Mezzaluna.
Those are so good. That was like a lick your
Mezzanotte.
plate moment. The sauce on that was so...
It was incredible. Did we ever ask what the sauce was? It was such a buttery olive oil.
Like butter and...
Yeah. So it
did something to the butter.
Yeah.
You got me at butter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really fantastic. It had fermented celery, coriander, and wild mushrooms.
Yeah.
Mezzanotte is doing some really, really great high quality food.
Cocktails were gorgeous. We sat with Joey and Gillian from Sensafine.
Yeah, it was an Amaro
and
fest.
I know. And we managed to book them for the show. So we'll have Gillian and Joey on the show later next month.
Yeah, and then I'll wrap up my thanks I ate it part with I went to the Yiddish Farmers Market and finally caught up with Pigeon Cooperative. I've been meaning to try their food for, I feel like, literally a year.
Me too.
And somehow the schedule of it never quite penciled out. So I finally got over there. This was their last weekend for doing farmers market stuff.
Oh, nice.
Those guys are so charming. They've acknowledged that they have threatened to have the last weekend of them doing farmer market stuff about 2 other times.
Oh, really?
But this time they really have got to start working on their restaurant space that they're starting up over in Fisherman's Terminal. So I think this really was it. And I got they call it an animal style ramen because it's with meat, and there's the veggie style.
It's Filipino based, yeah?
It's Pacific Rim, so there's Hawaiian influences as well, and Filipino, of course. Yeah, they had this seared pork belly in this incredibly great broth, and the noodles were house-made as well. Gorgeous produce in there, market produce. So asparagus spears were in there. Of course, it's just the time for that. So
perfect time for it.
And a really gorgeous radish.
Amazing.
And I love that ramen so much, and I'm really excited for them opening up.
They're saying I can't have the ramen, and I can't at the pop-up, and I can't go to the restaurant yet.
That's what I was going to say.
We've got nothing.
All of that, and then we can enjoy that until they open up their brick and mortar.
Yeah. It's just kind of a giant tease, I guess, from my section here. But yeah, I think that's just something everyone should be keeping on their radar. Pigeon Cooperative.
Good to me.
Nice.
Gonna be great.
Yeah, excited.
Well, you're going to take all of us.
I think so. I'm sure that will happen.
I think you owe it to us for teasing us.
Exactly.
Mark, are you working anything on this week, or is anything published?
Am I writing anything? No.
Your taco map is in syndication. It got posted today because it's Cinco de Mayo, right? But you didn't add to it.
Yeah, so that was a funny thing for me.
Eater, Seattle.
I was thinking, I usually get assigned the taco map from Eater, and I was like, it's Cinco de Mayo today. I never got assigned that. Who got assigned it instead? So I looked on the site and I noticed that it was updated and it had my name on it. But I think Harry Cheadle just kind of did a real quick update. Reran it. He added Tacos La Cuadra on there, which is correct. But I would have loved to have worked on that and put a few other places on there.
Who would you have added?
I would have put Tacos Extranjeros on there.
Yeah.
I would have considered Zoshi over in Issaquah.
Okay.
I need to get over there first in order to do that, but I've heard a lot about them and they sound real interesting. Okay. I have a whole, my phone is recording the video, so I can't look at it, but I have a whole list of places I was going to do.
He's been building throughout the year, waiting for the day to brighten.
Yeah,
it's such a Murphy's Law thing. Like you get super prepared to do a thing and then it doesn't come your way. But that's life.
Yeah.
Cool.
What do you got?
I like that you're in syndication now.
Yes.
I updated the Essential Seattle bars also, AKA the best bars for Eater Seattle. Nice. And I added, should I tell people what I added or should I make them go read it?
I think they should go read it.
Go read it. I added 3 bars, but they're all really good.
It's also a funny thing though, because you didn't write that under the guise of these are the best bars. You wrote that under these are the most essentially Seattle bars.
Sure.
Right?
Well, Jackie mentioned that the other day. She's like, headlines change depending on what platform you're viewing them on. So sometimes the headline that's on the Eater Seattle page won't have the same headline when it's shared on social. So it's both.
Yeah. Okay.
It's best bars, but I think of who is most essentially Seattle when I choose the bars.
Yeah.
That's it.
Trinh, what should people be looking for in the next coming weeks from you and Ramie and Basa and whatnot?
I think this week is tame. I have nothing going on, which is, I'm okay with that. Next week, Saturday, my baby sister is getting married.
Oh.
And so a lot of festivity, a lot of family. So I think we're just excited to have people come in and try us, finally at Ramie. Yeah. And then we're just on a personal level, we're just excited because we're going to get to reunite with a lot of families from, all over town. So all over US as well as Australia, Vietnam, Canada.
Yeah.
That's great.
So are we pronouncing the name of the restaurant slightly wrong? Is it emphasized in the last syllable? So Ramie?
Ramie, yeah.
Okay.
I was saying Ramie.
I was too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had a 4th grade teacher named Mrs. Raymer, so I've been saying it like Mrs. Raymer.
I'm glad we figured that out at the very end of the episode.
It's okay. Now everyone will learn.
Yeah. Most people call it Ramie.
Ramie.
Either the car rams or like ramen. And I'm no,
I thought it was Ramie for a long time, but it's Ramie. It's an herb. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's an herb that is used as a food dye as well.
Okay. Interesting. Now we know.
Yeah.
Trin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank
This was so
you.
much fun. I was really, really nervous. I was like,
Were you?
oh my God.
But we're just shooting the shit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is super relaxed. This is super fun.
Yeah.
You literally just talk about food and restaurant, which
And then Mark edits it.
Yeah.
and then you get to learn a lot about Mark.
I learned so much about you both.
Next week we have Uttam from Spice Walla. And hear that, future guest. It's very easy, and there's no need to be nervous
It's
about
so
appearing
easy.
on our show.
Uttam is a pro. Uttam's funny. He's going to talk about budgets and numbers and break it all down. I'm sure.
Yeah, we definitely need to talk about that with him because he's so exacting with that. It'd be cool.
Exciting. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.